What does Jesus' resurrection have anything to do with Passover? Matthew 27:50-54, recording Yeshua's death on the cross, says, "Crying out in a loud voice, Yeshua yielded up his spirit. At that moment, the veil in the temple was ripped in two from top to bottom, and there was an earthquake with rocks splitting apart. Also the graves were opened, and many holy people who had died were raised to life. And after Yeshua rose, they came out of the graves, went into the holy city where many people saw them." What's going on in here? Why did Matthew record the earthquake and then skip 3 days to the saints' resurrection? Why jump out of sequence and tell the punchline, if you will, of the resurrection, before the burial of Jesus even took place? Matthew aimed his gospel at Jews who knew Torah. He was showing how Yeshua's resurrection was the fulfillment of the Feast of Early Firstfruits, as explained in Leviticus 23, 9-15. After the Passover lamb was sacrificed, the high priest declared, "It is finished." They would then go over the Kidron Valley Bridge to the Mount of Olives, where the barley had been planted last fall after Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles. Before sundown, they would bind the standing barley into sheaves, marking out the ripe barley that would be harvested on the day of early firstfruits. The side of the Mount of Olives is where the saints and prophets were buried. When Messiah cried out from the cross, "It is finished," the earth quaked, the rocks split, and the graves were opened. Thus the firstfruit saints were marked out for the resurrection harvest. That was to occur 3 days and 3 nights later on the day of early firstfruits, HaBikurim. On the first day after the weekly Sabbath, the priest would again cross the Kidron Valley and publicly cut the barley sheaves that had been previously marked out. Yeshua, resurrecting on the day of early firstfruits, performs his duty as priest by harvesting or resurrecting the firstfruit saints on the Mount of Olives. Those saints present themselves publicly to many in Jerusalem. The following morning, just as the high priest presented the processed firstfruits barley harvest as the wave offering in the temple, the risen Messiah ascends to present himself as the Passover lamb and the saints as firstfruits of humankind in incorruptible bodies before the holy place in heaven. Remember how Jesus told Mary Magdalene not to touch him because he had not yet ascended to the Father. After, he allowed Thomas to touch his wounds. This indicates that by that point he had already ascended. Matthew shows clearly how Jesus fulfilled the duty of high priest for us by resurrecting the early saints as early firstfruits, thus increasing our faith and giving us, who trust in him, a promise and a hope for resurrection.